We finally did it. We found a date and a time that we could finally both get together, finally do the podcast. I know we wanted to do an episode for a little while, so excited we could get together. I'll give a quick intro for everyone listening, for I suppose people who might know who you are or anything like that. Obviously, we're very close friends. We lived in Dubai, but Ciaran, obviously you're a very successful business owner. You've kind of done a lot of various things throughout your life as well, a lot of traveling, speak a couple of languages and these sorts of things, but it's good to finally have you here. Would you like to give a background, I suppose, for the audience a little bit, just in terms of what you do, you know, kind of how you've nearly gotten to this point of running obviously a very successful business? No, we don't want to go into numbers or anything like that, but I can vouch for you personally that you're in a very impressive position. But do you want to, I suppose, give a bit of background on, you know, of how you kind of got into e-commerce, how you got into marketing and that kind of thing, and sort of where things have taken you now?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for having me on, Conor. Like you said, very long overdue. Super excited to be on here. So we I run, but what we do is we are a performance marketing agency. So we only work with e-commerce brands just like you. And our main thing that we do is we take 7-figure e-commerce brands and we scale them to 8 figures. Mm-hmm. We do that through a mixture of content, ads, and growth consulting. So content side, we'll make all the ads. We'll focus mainly on post-production. Ads, we will then run those ads, distribute them across Facebook, Instagram, Google, TikTok, Snapchat. And then on the growth consulting side, there are always things that happen outside of the ad account, outside of the ads as we scale, that then stop that scaling from happening. And so we could sit back and go, cool, we've done all we can do. We're doing great ads. It's something else that's stopping the scale, but then we can't actually continue to scale, right? So we go, okay, cool. What is that? A lot of the time it's distribution problems. Mm-hmm. It's problems with team hiring. It's problems with tracking stock levels, right? As ads start to take off, there can be some products that can seriously start to sell well with ads, and we're going to focus on those because that's where we can generate the most profit, right? And that's where a lot of brands can then struggle, because all of a sudden we're selling a boatload more of a product they weren't selling before. If they're not keeping track of that, they can run out of stock, right? So we help a lot with all those kind of back-end systems as well, so that we can actually continue scaling and hit that 8 figures.
Gotcha. This actually brings up a topic that we've spoken about a number of times where, you know, I think I suppose both in this game nearly coming up in 3 years. Actually, it will be. It's actually a little bit of
time flies, man.
Time does fly. It's a decent time horizon, I think.
Still babies, though, in my opinion.
Still babies.
Lots more to come, right?
Lots more to come. Lots more to learn.
Yeah.
But it brought up a topic that we were chatting about at dinner one night, where this is obviously something that's changed a lot in the ads world and the e-commerce world lately with agencies. I think particularly on your side with the growth marketing side of things, where it's a good chance to get into this. Where do you see that sort of going in terms of the deliverance of service? Because we were talking about how it's not really media buying anymore in a sense. It's you're trying to build bridges between marketing and finance more so, where you're not actually looking at the old metrics to scale a brand that we would have looked at, like return on ad spend and these sorts of things. They're great for a screenshot, but you're, because obviously we work on a number of clients together, when we see what your team kind of talks about, it's more about contribution margin, it's more about MAR, it's more, you know, it's you're kind of more so going into the finance side actually, but as well, how do you see that developing over the next, probably into 2024, but nearly beyond as well?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing, and I speak about this a lot with clients, especially as we start to bring them on board. The agency industry, you can look at it and go, cool, they're an agency, all agencies are the same, they do the same thing, they help businesses grow, right? But I see two very, very distinct types of agencies. So if you are starting an agency and starting something like that and things are going well, then you will be getting clients and you won't really be losing them because you're doing a good job, right? So very quickly, if you're doing a good job, you'll reach a point where the executive team can no longer have every client account in their head, right? At that point, it's a fork in the road. What most agencies choose to do is they go the volume route. So they will go, cool, we're not going to know what's going on inside every ad account anymore. We're not really going to care. That's what most agencies do. And they go, we're just going to hire as many team members as we can, bring on as many clients as we can. And that route is where they would massively systemize the process. They'd bring in a lot of automation so that it runs like clockwork, right? That would be like the McDonald's example, right? So it's where they can get anyone in, it's completely systemized, and they offer one very small specific service and they don't go outside of that. If they try to go outside of that at volume, it just breaks and it's a huge mess. From experience that we both have with certain clients, we won't name any names, but where they've come on board and they've come from previous agencies like that, it's been terrible, right? Mm-hmm. And to be fair to them, I don't think that's the case with every client ad account, because they run businesses, and if that, their business is successful, quote unquote, and if that was the case with every ad account, they wouldn't be here. However, I think the problem is quality control at that point, right? It's sometimes it works well if you have a good person running the ads. If you don't, it doesn't work well. We chose to go the other route, right? Which is the much more bespoke boutique route where we cap the number of clients that we work with, so we don't go above a certain number, so that we can deliver better results to them. And typically we'll have some kind of performance-based pay or pay that increases the better results we deliver or the more that we scale the brand, so that we can get paid. We would then effectively scale vertically instead of horizontally, right? So instead of bringing on more clients to scale, we'll scale vertically by working with clients where we can provide a boatload of value, providing a lot of value to them with more services like the consulting side and going a lot deeper, so that we can do that. And so that side, for a volume agency to try and bring in all of that side around, cool, let's look at your finances, send us over your P&L, we're going to dig into this, we're going to look at your margins, we're going to see what makes sense for you. That would be impossible for those guys, right? For us, that's possible. So that's where we start to go a lot deeper on that. We consult a lot on that side, and we start to look into it. So to answer your question around the future of it in terms of what I see, 5 years ago, you could just put up a product photo on an ad, get crazy ROAS, and it performs super well, right?
The good old days.
The good old days of Facebook, which was, it sounded incredibly easy. But now it's completely different, right? It's a completely super competitive landscape. Cost per acquisition is rising, cost of advertising rising. Brands need to be a lot more in tune with their numbers to know, cool, okay, what are my margins? What CAC can I be paying? All this kind of stuff to be able to understand, okay, cool, we can actually scale. And there are a lot of brands that especially brands in the CPG niche, for example, that focus way more on LTV. And we have the odd brand where they go, cool, you know what, guys, we know our numbers so well now that we're happy to say, let's just acquire customers at break even, because we know the LTV is there and they come back day 30, 60, 90, whatever. And that makes sense for them. So it's very unique to each brand and looking at what makes sense for them.
Interesting, yeah. That does only seem to be growing. I think, like, I tweeted about this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks where I was like, the future of agencies probably is more down that boutique route. And it's also people who are T-shaped, having a broad knowledge of a number of things, but then really deep knowledge on their one service, where they're able to consult on different things. Like, I would have a working knowledge of ads. I would have a
You do. Yeah, definitely. Like we've had very high level conversations on ads, and I'm always very impressed.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, and you would have like a very, very good understanding of email, SMS, like upsells and stuff like that, and like even what we would do for clients of like post-purchase upsell pages and different things like that. Because sometimes opportunity is elsewhere than just the one thing that you're doing. Yeah, which is certainly quite interesting. So you've probably felt that evolve quite a bit over the last couple of years. Like, how would you kind of, I suppose, rate like younger Ciaran, like from starting the agency up till now, like, because you learn very quickly in general. Like I've always clocked that. Yeah. So yeah, that development. I mean, I suppose we go back to the start of the agency. Like you'd done a lot of traveling and stuff like that. You were then came back, went into university to business with 3 languages. Yeah. And when did you, let's say, see an ad or see something that made you maybe want to start a business? Like what was the process there from, university student Ciaran to then starting the agency?
Yeah. So it's probably not the normal route in. So I think as a kid, I'd always known that I wanted to do something different. I'd always had that desire to, I'd look at a 9-to-5 job or whatever and be like, I can't do that. And I always had it. So I thought about joining the Royal Marines, thought about doing all this, thought about loads of different things, right? And I remember being 17, and at that point I was like, basically my goal was to be a pro kickboxer at that point. So I was training twice a day, every day, kickboxing. I'd already been out and fought in Thailand and things like that. Well, I would have been like 18, 19 at that point. But it was before then. But I remember reading, somehow I came across the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. No idea how I came across it. I think my mum might have had a book called The 4-Hour Body or something.
That was also Tim Ferriss.
Yes. So I think that's it. I think I saw that, and I was massively into fitness at the time. And fitness has always been a huge part of my life. So I was very into fitness. So I think I saw that book, was like, who's this Tim Ferriss guy? Googled it, and then saw 4-Hour Workweek, right? I got the book and I read it. And I remember that I understood a solid 10% of what was written in the book. So he's talking about hiring VAs to help scale your business. And I was like, what the hell is this? I have no clue what this is. But one part stuck with me. And that was when he was talking about how he had an online business that he was running, and he now lived this crazy life where in the book he spoke about when he went to Buenos Aires with his wife to compete in the national tango championships, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell? Like I was looking at all of the adults that I knew at that point. They were just going doing the same job all day, every day. And I don't think there's a problem with that. But for me, I was like, I can't do that. I want this. Like whatever. I don't really understand what his life is, Tim Ferriss's life there. But like there's something about it where I was like, I want that. I want that freedom, or there's something there about that. So that was always there. And then it was traveling. I saw when I went traveling, so I took 2 years out before university and went traveling around Asia, South America. That's when I started to learn Spanish. And then I actually went through, it was a Selena, which is like a co-working space, but it had a bar, and I was there to watch the World Cup because in Colombia at the time, the World Cup was going on.
England were going well at that point as well.
Yes, they were. The England v Colombia game was a very fun one to watch in Colombia, right? That was an interesting one. But that's a story for another podcast maybe. And to get to the bar, I walked through the co-working space and I saw all these people sat there on the laptops, furiously working away. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I spoke to a guy and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, well, I work remotely. Like my job's online. So I get paid a US salary, but I'm over here in Colombia. And I was like, that's cool. So that was when I first kind of realized like, okay, you can do something different. You can have something online, right? So then went back to England, went to university. I was going to study neuroscience, but last minute changed my degree to triple language and business. Because of the whole travel side that I loved, and I loved the languages. And then in my first year of uni, I was furious. In fact, I remember being in Colombia with a girl at the time. I remember sitting with her on YouTube, looking at how to make money online. I was like, I'm going to do this. And she was like, yeah, you can. I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. Not a clue what it was. And then I remember first year of uni, my first attempt at an online business, bought a course on SEO. So the model was called Rank and Rent.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's back in the annals there.
Back in the day, old school model. Pretty cool concept, really. So the idea is you would start a website, and the website would be around a local business niche in a specific area, right? So the town that I grew up in was called Altrincham, and so I set it as Altrincham Plumber, right? And I had another one that was Altrincham Locksmith. So the idea is you want to find leads. So you rank the website using SEO for terms like emergency plumber Altrincham, right? Or whatever it is. You then start getting leads coming in organically, and then you can rent that website out to a plumbing business in the area, and you can say, hey guys, we have whatever, X number of leads a month here that come through, how much you want to pay per lead, or you can just rent the whole website, right? And then the idea is that then runs, you can have 10, 20, 30 websites, rent them out for $1,000 each or whatever. Pretty cool model. But at the time, I was 20 years old, first year of university. I was not remotely in the right headspace to do that. I was too busy partying and whatever. I was just too young, really. So that kind of fell off. Then, yeah, lot of different things happened then. So then joined the Royal Naval Reserves in university. Became an auxiliary nurse outside of that in the NHS whilst at uni. Was working in COVID hospitals, and I was like, I want to be a doctor. So I was lining up to do my graduate medicine degree to become a doctor, and I thought, I need to pay for this. I can't get another loan, right? Because I already had my first loan. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay for this. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, online business was there previously, and I saw that there was some, because I started getting leads through. I was like, okay, I can do that. I kind of went back to that, and I was like, I can do that. And at the same time, a friend of mine was like, hey man, I know Facebook ads, I want to learn SEO. Let's kind of help each other. And we shared resources. He had a course on Facebook ads. I started going through this course. And then that's when I started looking, okay, cool. Where can I find people who can teach me this? Where can I find people who can help me teach me the business model around this? And that's when I first, it was Jordan Platten actually, who was one of the first people who taught me that, because he was at the time was teaching people how to run agencies. And he still is. And he was really like one of the main people who helped me first understand the agency model and build that out. And then from there, built the agency, realized that I absolutely loved that, decided not to go to medicine. And then, yeah, the rest is history, really.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's a couple of things I note in there which would kind of make us be kind of similar, where it's almost like an ADHD component of like jumping to, oh, I really want to do this, so then I really want to do this.
Oh man, yeah.
I had started probably 3 businesses when I was in secondary school.
Yeah,
all I'm just different things where I was like, yes, I'm definitely going to do this.
Yeah.
Thought I wanted to do about 6 different degrees.
Yeah,
and then just flip-flopping all over the place. Maybe everyone's the same, but I do think just from our conversations, and sometimes we don't have the best effect on each other in the sense that we'll just ADHD all over the place. But
yeah, we will. Yeah.
But this is interesting. There's two things I want to go into there. So where do you think, I don't want to say it's like an erratic sort of behavior, because I wouldn't say that about either of us.
Yeah.
Because I think it is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
In the sense that it gives you real kind of action. It gives you sort of activation energy.
Yes.
I would call it, to actually do things, is to have that.
Yes, you don't sit around and dwell on things or overthink things. You can just kind of boom, okay, this is the right decision, we're going to go. This is where we need to go, bam. It's the speed of action.
And bam, and you need that.
Yeah.
And so I know, have you always sort of had that more where because there are a number of things we've gone through in terms of like you being in the Naval Reserves, being an auxiliary nurse, wanting to do medicine, but you also got really into rugby when you were younger. I know you were playing for the Sale Sharks, which is obviously pretty high level stuff as well.
Yeah.
Have you kind of followed this trend of like a couple of years you wanted to be a pro kickboxer?
Yeah.
Do you know? Have you kind of always had this kind of getting really into something and absolutely pouring your heart and soul into it, and then? Then when you realize it's maybe not the exact path for you, you look to...
Yes. And when I was younger, so that's always been there. And when I was younger, I didn't really see it. And it was when other people would see it around me. So like my friends at school, my close friends, they would see it and they would kind of comment on it almost as a joke and be like, and I'd be into something. They'd be like, oh yeah, here he goes again. Like, he's all right. Here. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's going to be whatever. He's going to be a fitness influencer now. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, all right, okay, yeah, here we go again. Whereas in that moment, I am 100% like, this is exactly what I want to do. And when I started to realize that was happening, it then started to actually affect me mentally negatively, because I would start to be like, okay, I love this. I really want to do it, but am I just going to drop off again? Right. And that was like a big thing that I struggled with when I was a lot younger. Then as I kind of got older, got a bit more mature, prefrontal cortex developed, whatever it is, by the age of 25, which I am now, I can start to see and recognize those kind of things. And I can see when something is truly for me and when it's just kind of something that I'm like a momentary interest. Right. And for me, business now is that outlet of that intensity, if you want to call it that, that is something that I'm truly passionate about, and it fits. I think when it's something that I'm very obsessed with at the time, but it doesn't fit my values, it doesn't fit what I want to do in life or who I am. Whereas this lifestyle in business, it fits that, right? It has that element of self-development, always wanting to get better, building a team of amazing people around you, doing good in the world, right? Being able to help people, being able to do all this, like that it fits my values. It fits who I want to be, and I absolutely love it.
How have you been able to identify that? Is that just through reference experience where you get a feel of something and realize that it's for you, or? Yeah.
So I mean, a big part of it is just experience, right? Like I've been through that many times. And being very introspective, right? So therapy is one thing. I had a lot of therapy when I was younger, and it's something that I recommend to everyone, right? And I think a lot of people would see therapy as a cure. So they would go, okay, like my life is now a mess. I'm now depressed, or I'm now whatever. Now I need therapy. Whereas I think that's a wrong way to look about it. I think a better way to look at it is more like prevention and cure, right? And therapy doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It's a way for you to properly understand who you are. And you can do this on your own. You can sit and look at what you do. You can write out what you do, what your values are, if you're acting in line with your values or not. And if you're not, why are you not? What's pulling you away from your values, right? And you can start to look at all these things. And therapy, a good therapist won't sit and tell you what that is. They will just help prompt you. So they will just, you'll say something and they'll be like, oh, that's an interesting choice of word. Like, what made you describe yourself as this word specifically? And then that makes you think, oh yeah, actually I did use that word. Why is that? Like, what do I think? And kind of going through that process, whether that is with someone or on your own or whatever, I think it's a very important thing to do, because it helps you understand yourself. And when you spot the things that you do, whether they are good or bad, and when you recognize those patterns that you have, you can they no longer have control, essentially, right? You can see yourself naturally doing something, like unconsciously, and you can go, oh, that's that thing that I notice that I do all the time. And it's then like, okay, well, now I have a choice if I want to do it or not, right? And so it's a very important thing, and I think it's very, very useful, and I think everyone should have that time in looking at themselves and seeing, okay, what do I do? What are my patterns? And learning about themselves.
Yeah, you were the reason that I actually began doing therapy, because the conversation we had about 6 months ago, and I found it extremely beneficial.
Yeah,
and actually on different things you might notice about yourself and whether or not you want to do them, actually making them a choice.
Yeah,
I actually noticed a couple of patterns in myself, but one which I'm not afraid to like share with other people is that I noticed that I noticed a pattern that would lead to me flaking on plans, which, you being my friend, you know that I have a bit of a penchant for doing that. I'm a bit of a hard man to track down sometimes. And now, as of the last, like when I realized that, which was only recently.
Yeah.
Now, let's say we've a couple of things planned for Saturday and Sunday and stuff like that. I'm just locked in. I've then planned out and put into my weekend, because I'm like, I don't want to be the person who flakes on plans.
Yeah.
That's not a good trait to have.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be someone who's dependable, where, at least even before something gets brought up, you're like, look, that actually won't really fit my schedule at that time. It's better to just say it then rather than prolong it.
Yes.
And because when you prolong it, you enlarge it.
Yes. And I think that is more of a side of, like, because I think everyone does this, and I've had that as well. And I think that's more of a side of not quite avoiding conflicts or avoiding confrontation, but a side of being like, oh, okay, like, I'm not quite sure, I don't want to make the wrong decision. And like, if I do want to do it, but I say no, then blah, blah, blah. But again, it's that kind of thing of just being like, no, okay, I know how I feel, I don't want to do that. Better to say now and then forget about it, instead of having these things like looming on, and then it's like, and then canceling and whatever, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like you were saying there, I think that therapy it's very interesting to just see those patterns. It's potentially somewhat cliche, depending on the kind of, depending on whatever the audience might listen to, but Carl Jung obviously famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will govern your life and you will call it fate.
Yes.
And it's actually very true, because there are a couple of patterns I've noticed where I'm like, man, if I knew about that 10 years ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're so simple.
Well, bro, like the thing is, right, like you have no control over the cards that you are dealt in life, right? You did not choose to be born where you're born. Thankfully, we were born in a great country. Thankfully, we've got great family and people around us who love us. But like, the way you were raised shapes who you become, right? And you have no control over any of that. So why would you then just never look at that, never look at the way that you are behaving unconsciously, and just trusting and going, yeah, cool, like, the way that I've randomly turned out is the right way I want to be? That makes no sense. You should look at it and go, okay, cool. Right now, I'm behaving the way I am. Is this how I want to behave, right? And then looking at all that and going, okay, like, what am I actually doing? What are the patterns that I follow? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And then how do I want to behave? Like, what do I want to do? And if you don't do that, you're just living life blindingly hoping that the way that you were raised, or the way that you grew up, or whatever, the way that you've turned out now is exactly the way you want to be.
Exactly.
And that most of the time won't be.
Yeah, but what do you want to be? What do you want to want? If you get me,
yes.
In terms of your desires, yeah.
Yes. So, oh man, now we're opening a can of worms. So this is something that I say, right? Some people, so like, the business grew super fast and it's going super well, blah blah blah. And a lot of people might be like, oh, so like, where's that come from? Or like, why have you managed to do that? Blah blah blah. And a lot of people would be like, yeah, I'm great. Like, I've done this, I've done that. But like, I look at it, and if you just keep boiling back, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I worked super hard when no one else did. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm a hard worker, but like, does that make me great? Why did I work hard when other people didn't? Okay, because I had motivations, or because I wanted to do these things. Okay, great. I want to do things more than others. But like, where does that desire come from? I don't know, right? I could probably dig it out from really digging through, but then there'll be something else. And I go, where does that come from? And you eventually boil back to a point where you go, I don't know. Like for sure, I have these desires, and yes, I'm acting on them, and yes, I've decided to do this. So yes, I have some credit. But at the same time, like, if you boil it back, if I was born somewhere else, if I had a different family, if I was born to a different parent, would I have these same desires or these same traits that allow me to do this, that I can capitalize on? Probably not. So it's like, am I really do you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost an element of like gratitude, and being like, I'm like, yeah, I've done cool things, and yeah, I've done it. So great, like, good for me. But at the same time, it's like, I'm so grateful that whatever it is in me that makes me want to do this is there.
I get you because you don't know any other way of being, in a sense.
Mm.
Because even with both of us, we get really into something for a while. There's always been something that we were very dedicated to all the way up.
Yeah.
That's a desire to just latch onto something and be dedicated to it. It is an outlet, in a sense, where I think if I didn't have something to dedicate myself to, I think it would completely
man.
it'd completely spin my head out.
But yeah, I've been there, like uni. I didn't have anything. I was just drinking every day, going out all the time, partying. And then as soon as I started the business, I then barely went out for like 2 years, right? I was just in my room every day drinking. I was actually, working. I wasn't in my room drinking every day, not at all.
That'd be sad enough. Yeah,
it would, yeah. There was a period actually where I didn't drink for like 9 months. Didn't do anything, didn't go out, just working. Like, and then the switch from drinking like every day in uni, partying every day, living that lifestyle, to then suddenly being like, nah, I'm just in a room every day. It was drastic, but
there's a principle underlining both of them.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like, I think that thing is the same thing. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the same thing.
I get you. I mean, there's obviously Brute to Force on Twitter. We've both seen. He talks about how the billionaire and the heroin addict are virtually the same.
Well, yeah. So Grant Cardone is a prime example. He was in rehab.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he openly talks about being in rehab and he changed his life. Now look at him, he's a billionaire, right? I think it is the same, and that is why I think like everyone has potential, and I think like it's the way that you look at it and the way that you can use it. Like, and I think a lot of people coming from a more difficult place, I think you actually have more potential to do great things because of that. Because
it's a slingshot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
This is interesting. I'm getting interested in this as well, of identifying the things which are right for someone like that, because I think a lot of people listening will actually relate to that in a sense. In that it'll be a lot of people who we know in our network who also run businesses and things like that, or work remotely in a career or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But identifying, I've been looking at this more so where you were talking about a couple of things in terms of how you identify things which you know are right for you. And one of the things you kind of touched on was that you feel like you can improve at something every day. So it's something like mastery.
Yeah.
I think one of the best benefits of running a business is that you're at least never bored.
Yes.
There are many downsides to it in that it's way more stressful than any job.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of pressure on you. Sometimes like you have massive expenses and things like that.
Yep.
But at least you're never bored. But boredom is honestly my worst fear in a sense. I do not want to be bored at any point. That is not a way I want to live life.
Yes.
But I was watching this video recently of like the 5 intrinsic motivators.
Yeah.
And kind of how to identify something that's correct for you, where you have 5 intrinsic motivators of curiosity.
Yeah.
So your mind naturally gravitating towards this thing. Mastery, the ability to endlessly improve at it. Autotelicity, autotelic, meaning just doing it for just enjoying the actions in and of themselves. Like that they're complete in and of themselves. Like a kid swinging on a swing. It's just fun.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Then the 4th, I'm absolutely going to butcher the 4th. I believe the 4th one, was the 4th one autonomy, or is that the 5th? No, I think the 5th is autonomy. The 4th is purpose, and then the 5th is autonomy.
Okay.
So within the agency, like I actually feel like all 5 are kind of present for me to some extent.
Yeah.
But there are ways to amplify those as well. Where purpose, I do feel like all of the team, at least they're not working for you. Like they're not working in a job that they hate.
Oh man,
they get paid really well compared to what they would otherwise be paid in a normal job.
How good is it to work for like? But I know your business inside out, like. Because like we work so closely together, and like working in your team, I think everyone on your team is so lucky. Like it's such an amazing business, such an amazing work atmosphere. Like they have the freedom to do what they want to do, and that's like the same with us. Like,
same for you. I was going to say the same for you.
I can't imagine, like, you know, when you hear stories of how it is at other agencies working there, and you see it on Glassdoor, and you're like, oh my god, like
Or I think of even I've friends of mine who are kind of. They're doing their 3 years in, let's say, a big four company to kind of get their accountancy degree, and it is 3 years of sucking it up, and then you'll be in a really good position. You know, you're sorted for life after that point. But still, they're in really like they're expected to work really long hours, and they get paid really nothing. But
sat in an office, they have to raise the hand to go to the toilet.
Mate,
like
dire.
Yeah.
So on that purpose point, I think we're helping businesses grow. I really do, and having that like. It's not like you're helping a ton of people really kind of marginally. It's like you're helping a smaller number of people, but you're really helping them.
Yes.
You're really helping them grow. Like we've seen a client, obviously, not the name, you know, Josh, like who we obviously sent over to you guys earlier in the year. Bro,
what a legend.
What a legend.
Shout out to Josh. Big up Josh.
Shout out to Josh. Absolute legend. But what was it? Within like 2 months, you'd like 3x their revenue or something like that. And their goal was to double their revenue this year. They've now already done, like we're just gone through October. Like we had to hit Black Friday.
Yeah.
And they've more than doubled their revenue this year.
Yeah.
So like, you know, he's already hit his targets for his business this year. But, you know, let's say, do you feel like those 5 are present for you, like in kind of different capacities? We have curiosity, mastery, autotelicity, purpose, autonomy. You know,
yes.
What would you feel? What would, out of those 5, what do you think is strongest within the agency that makes you think, yes, I like running this. This is worth the stress. This is worth the sleepless nights.
Yes.
Sort of things like that.
Yes. It's a great question, and I think that what has been there has changed as time has gone on, and will continue to change. Right. So I don't think all 5 are present at the exact same time in equal amounts. I think that early on it was purely that massive curiosity and massive intense desire to change my situation, right? Because I was wanting to make money. I was living at home with my parents. I wanted to get out, and I didn't really know anything. So it was this huge kind of curiosity, discovering what this industry was and what this was about and how the business works. And then a huge desire to basically not a negative motivation, but like to move away from the life that I had. Not that there's a huge amount wrong with it, but I didn't want that. I wanted something else, right? So I think that was there. As we grew the agency, it was very much a focus on, and I think if any beginner agency owners are watching this, they should focus on this too, is it's develop an MVP, get a minimum viable product, get your service to a point where clients are happy, you're getting good results, but it doesn't need to be, you don't need to focus on getting everything completely perfect, right? So many people get caught up in that, and you know they have no clients, but they're building out a beautiful reporting system, and it's like, man, you don't have any clients. You don't even really understand what clients need to be told. You don't even understand what needs to go in that report. So don't bother making it spend a week building out this beautiful report. Get some clients on board, give them what you think they need in a simple report. It might not look beautiful. They might not go, okay, they might not see it and be like, wow, this report's amazing, but they go, it gives me what I need. And then from that, you can learn everything that you need, right? You learn what you need to deliver to clients and what they want. They'll be asking questions, go, hey man, do you have something like this? Or hey, I'd like the report to be like this, or whatever. I'm just using reporting as one example. Then you reach a point, which is where we've reached, where it's like, you know the industry inside out. You know exactly how to deliver results to clients. You know exactly what they need. And now it's like, okay, cool. Now it's that focus on excellence and perfecting exactly what you do, because you know how to perfect it. Otherwise, 90% of the things you do early on without understanding the industry properly and your service properly and your ideal client properly is going to be a waste of time, because you're just going to build stuff out that isn't useful, isn't going to be needed, and is pointless. Whereas if you can learn the industry, learn your client, learn all that, then you know exactly what to deliver. You know exactly how to build it, and you can build something beautiful. If you try and do it before, you're just going to build a mess.
Exactly. I think you've always had a very good penchant for figuring out what the bottleneck is and just solving that. I feel like you don't get lost in the chaff so much.
Yeah.
Myself and Evan were having one of our 2 a.m. masterminds the other night, and you know me when I'm on one talking about something business wise, when the hands go behind the head as I'm pacing back and forth. That's when
that means business.
That means business there. But we were talking about this, and we were like just solving the bottleneck that is arising at that point, which you are probably the best at doing that of anyone I know in our space. You're very good at locking onto problems, being like, all right, clearly this is the problem. Yeah, I'll just solve that, rather than getting overwhelmed at all the other things you could potentially do. You're like, this is a constraint. Let's get rid of that. But you touched on something I wanted to bring up as well. So you showed that we have this fork in the road of someone can become a volume agency, and it's maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Yeah. Kind of, we don't know.
And they don't care. They lock them into long-term contracts.
Get a junior.
Terrible business model.
Junior media buyer onto the account. Junior copywriter, junior email account manager, all the rest of it. Yeah. So, and then we have the other route. So we've talked about this a lot because we're kind of looking at, we both hit that fork in the road at probably the middle of this year or so. And you know, we both decided on that excellence route, and, you know, saving your mental energy. I literally just refunded a client the other day who was kind of stressing out one of our team members. I was like, it's not worth that person stressing out. I was like, thank you, bye. Yeah.
Oh man, team morale is like
Team morale is
number
everything.
one.
Talk to me about the drive for excellence now. You sent me a couple of voice notes about this, of really driving excellence in everything that you do. Talk to me about that.
Yes. So we've been focusing on this a lot, but very recently we've had a huge shift internally in the team on this. And I actually just turned away 7 new clients coming on board who wanted to come on board with us. Turned them all away. We have the capacity. We could have brought them on. That was multiple 5 figures in monthly recurring revenue. At the minute, we're looking at potentially change that, but our expenses are relatively fixed. Some do change depending on performance and things like that. We're relatively fixed. So that would have been boatload of profit for the business right there. I said no. Reason for that is because the exec team, so my COO, Bruno, absolute legend, and Maz, who's head of performance, he kind of leads leads client results.
Also a legend.
Yeah, massive legend.
Great guy. Actually,
the very first, second person I brought on the team, but very first person I brought on the service delivery side. So he's one of the day ones.
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out to Maz. But those two now are both so driven and so motivated and so excited about the idea of building excellence, and they are working so hard on that. And I was looking at that and I was like, I don't want to stop that. Like I don't really care about the profit. Like that is something that I don't want to stop. Like that is something that is so valuable. And obviously I'm leading the charge with them as well. And we're also going through a rebrand at the minute, and lots of other stuff. And we're really focusing on excellence everywhere. And that is actually the phrase that we've come up with. Bruno actually coined it, is excellence everywhere. And it's every point in the business. Like I have such a clear vision of where I want this to be. I want this to be at a point where any single touch point that anyone has with us, they are blown away. Like, wow, these guys are like nothing else in the industry. And that's externally on the marketing side. And that's also internally in every single bit there is. Everything. Like we're going through everything, and we're like, we are not holding back on anything here. If we have to rebuild the entire business, we don't care. Like this is how we've got a vision. That's how we want it to be. And it's like, we're going to get it there regardless. If profit drops to 0 for however many months, don't care. Is what it is. It's got to be done. And building out something like that is how we're going to be able to get to that next level in terms of what we want to do. What exactly we want to do actually isn't that clear, but I think that's okay. Because I think what a lot of people do is they set a plan early on, a very clear, detailed plan, and then they stick to it blindly. But the problem is, as you execute on a plan, as you go through a plan, you learn more. You learn more about the industry, you learn more about what you're doing, you have more time to assess and see what's going on, and you can see other opportunities might be better. You can see a better way of doing it. The plan should change. A lot of people blindly stick to a plan, but I think that's wrong. Plans should change. If you're not updating your plans as you go along with what you learn and how you go, it's a huge error. Huge error, I think. So whether we're going to be solely working with e-commerce, or whether we're going to be doing something else, or whether we're going to be building out a media buyer training academy for other businesses, for agencies, or for brands, or whatever it might be, or creating some of our own brands, that's kind of open. But that's okay, because the key focus of mine is building a team of absolute legends. Like that is it. And that is an asset. If we have that asset, we can do whatever we want. Like wherever we want to go. If we have an asset of team, which is like the SEAL Team 6 of marketing, it doesn't matter what we want to do. We can go, cool, okay, yeah, we want to build a brand, great, let's go build a 9-figure brand. Or, we want to go be the best agency in the industry, great, let's do that. We want to build the best media buying consulting program in the industry, great, let's go do that. Like it doesn't matter, because we've got the asset, we've got the team, and we can do whatever we want to do. And that's the focus right now. That's
beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And like you're saying, you don't necessarily need this fixed end goal, because it's sort of that process to get there seems to be the goal. And also when you're following that process, like the painful thing about having quite a lofty goal, let's say if it's an end outcome of, I want to have this many team members, or I want to have this much revenue.
Yes.
Is that anytime you're not there, you're failing.
Yes.
So every day it's like a little cut into you each day. You're like, oh man, I'm such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Why am I not at this point?
Yeah.
But if your process is to drive excellence, and you're seeing the business improving day on day, you're winning every single day.
Of course,
you're getting towards that point. Now, ideally you would have both, I suppose.
Yes, you need the plan, and you need an end goal as a direction, because there's no point focusing on excellence on being, I don't know, the best painter in the world, but like if your goal is to be an e-commerce agency, that isn't really going to make sense for what you're doing, right? And the same kind of drives back home to the point before, where if you're trying to build out the most beautiful reporting, but your service is terrible, then like that's it's not going to make any sense, right? And so you need that plan as a direction, but then there's a famous thing that a lot of climbers say, which is don't look at the summit, look at your feet and just count the steps, right? Which is like, if you're constantly staring at the summit, you're like, holy fuck, I have like however many kilometers to go and that is so far away. How am I going to get there? My legs are already tired. My feet are bleeding. Like, how am I going to get there? Whereas if you're just looking at the floor and you go, yeah, I can do one more step. Like, and then you go, oh God, I want to stop. Oh, but could I do one more step? Yeah, I could. All right, I'll just do one more then.
And probably another.
Yeah, and probably another. And then you start to enjoy it. And then before you know it, you're at the summit and you're going, all right, are we here already? Like, I kind of don't want to be here. Like I enjoyed that more than reaching this. What's the next summit, right?
It's very interesting. It's very interesting the parallels that are drawn across there of you know, it is the most cliche of cliches, but you know, the journey being everything, but also when you have it's sort of like getting into a flow state, you know, like the 4 flow protocols of like struggle, release, flow, recovery. So like there's the struggle in the beginning. Yeah. Like Leon from Self Mastered says, when you see a hill, sprint. Yeah. When you're in like a difficult phase of like, oh, I'm really struggling to focus. If you just struggle through it, eventually you're rewarded with this optimal state of consciousness to really smash out your tasks. Yes. But it's funny when you understand sometimes why you're going into a difficult task in a kind of sadistic way. It actually makes you like it. Yeah, yeah. And you enjoy your feet bleeding probably in that scenario. Yeah. But yeah, this is such it's an interesting departure. You know, going into driving excellence everywhere, because the thing that we've done up until now, both of us, has been sort of just redlining it. It's been let's grow really fast. We're both quite, I would say, overdeveloped skill-wise on the sales front, and that side of things. So it's an interesting thing for you. You were talking about kind of introspection and things like that as well. What has made you go away from the path of least resistance, which is just signing more clients? Like the path of least resistance is just, well, you could onboard more. You turned away 7 clients. Yeah. Getting clients is not a problem and results are good. Like clients are happy. But like, I don't know, like looking at it and going, yeah, let's just sign more clients and let's grow the business and let's have like a good enough. Like it's good enough. Is it about making something that you're extremely proud of? Is it about making something where you can show your mom, hey, this is what I've made here? Yes. And that is it. Like when I look at it, I'm like, okay, we do a great job. Clients are happy. No one's complaining. Like clients, you know, it's good. Things are good. Results are good. But I'm like could it be better? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, then why are we bringing on more clients? Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I think that it can always be better. I don't think that will ever go. But like, I want something that I'm proud of. I want something where I can be like, okay, this is something beautiful. Like what we have here, no one else has. This is better than anything else I've seen. And like, that is what I want. I think if I were putting on the intrinsic motivation hat there, it would seem like that's the mastery component of it coming out a bit of wanting to endlessly improve at what you're doing. Yes. Because sometimes when you don't have that, it's almost hard to do things where you feel the confines of it. Yeah. After a point where you can only, you know, not professions, but let's say if you back for you playing rugby. Yeah. You can only, like even professional teams are only going to get so much better at rugby. Yeah. And then they're going to peak when they're like 32 and then they're going to have a really, you know, sharp decline after that. It's like, it's a finite game. So that seems to be, like with business, it is an infinite game. So that does seem to be the mastery component of you wanting to become really as excellent as possible in what you're doing. Yeah, it is. And I think as well, where that kind of aligns is when you have something that you want to develop mastery in, but it's also something that you're good at. I think that is where you get that serious motivation, because it's like, I want to be the best at this, and I can see so clearly that I can be, and that like there's no doubt in my mind that we are going to get there. It's not like
oh, that would be great. You know, if I was like, I want to be the world's best basketball player, no matter how much motivation I had, I'd be like, how am I going to get there? Like, am I 6'5"? Like, you know, I'm 25 now. How long would it take me to learn basketball? Never even played it, right? It's like, is that going to happen? Maybe not. Whereas this, it's like, yeah, it's so clearly going to happen. All we need to do is follow the motivation, work on it, put the graft in, right? Which a lot of people might not want to do, but we all want to do it as a team. Mm-hmm. And I definitely do. And then we'll get there. Like, and so it's that mix of like wanting mastery and seeing that it's so possible.
Makes sense, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's something that we'll never reach. That'll always be there.
Which is the good part.
That's the good part, yeah.
Is that there are always little optimizations to be made.
There are. Always new things to learn, always ways to get better.
Yeah, well, you definitely are going to get there. I think with that full focus with the team you have, like you were saying about our team, yeah, like similarly with Bruno, with Maz, and with other guys in the team, your team is definitely more than capable of that. With your guidance, they're more than capable of that. But kind of changing gears here a little bit.
Yep.
You are, and kind of always have been, very into fitness, right? And for anyone listening, you're really good at calisthenics. You do like loads of muscle ups in a row. Like you do handstand walks for bloody 100 meters and stuff like that. Like handstand walking football pitches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've noticed this correlation actually throughout many people who are just who are just good at whatever. Like, or they're able to focus on something. It's in our case, it's always a bloody business context because we just know so many people who are running businesses.
Yeah.
Do you see that correlation with so many people who they were either really good at a sport or they're in really good nick overall? There seems to be a huge correlation between fitness and someone doing well at that. Has that affected your entrepreneurial journey, do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think fitness for me was the first thing that it was the first thing that I did where you have to do it daily for a long period of time before you see results. And I think that was the first, and that's the exact same as business, right? You go through months of nothing and it is just like eating glass. It is not fun, right? It is not fun. You don't have a clue what you're doing. Half of the stuff you do is a waste of time because you don't know what you should be doing. Nothing's working. You're a complete noob. People laughing you off the phone.
I feel personally attacked here.
Yeah, and you have to just eat shit for like time, and you have to just go through that with no results. And like when I entered the space, a lot of people are in the space a bit already. You know, they're on Twitter, they're following entrepreneurs, they're looking at this. Maybe they tried the odd thing here and there, but like I knew no one. I knew no one else doing this. The only other people I knew was in a Facebook ads course when I bought that, right? That was it. But I didn't know any of them personally. So I had no reference points of like I hadn't watched anyone do it. All I had was people shouting 100 grand a month on YouTube videos, me being like, is this just a scam? Like, is this even real? And so there is like kind of blind faith of getting there. And I think fitness was the first thing that for me was like, yeah, okay, you put in the work daily and you're strict with it and you get results and it pays off. And I think that has carried through to everything.
Mastery component there as well. I think you can endlessly improve at it. With doing that. Yeah. And how did that go for you? Did you start doing that because you were playing rugby? Like, did you get into weights through that? And then there's this evolution of going from, let's say, I'm sure you played a lot of soccer when you were growing up, and then
I actually didn't, you know.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I actually didn't.
Maybe rugby league, maybe up north.
No, just rugby union.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm probably the 0.1% of Manchester-born guys that never played football, don't follow it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, because like I was saying about my cousins in Denton, I'm like, the first ever jersey I got, sorry Auntie Anne here, but it was that like old black Vodafone, like Roy Keane kind of jersey, and it had my first name on there. I support Chelsea. Sorry again, Auntie Anne, but yeah, what was the evolution for you fitness wise? What did you begin doing? Did you start off in the gym? Did you start off going to like a leisure center and just going on the rowing machines and stuff like that, and then how did that go to kickboxing and so on? Yeah.
So it was rugby. I remember I was 14, and our coach at the time tried to get us into the gym, and because there was a gym at the school, because like it was like a public gym, but it was connected to the school, so we could use it for free, and other people would come in and use it as well. And he tried getting us into the gym. I remember the whole team, there was like 3 of us who actually ended up sticking with it. And main reason for that was I can't remember his name. It was so long ago, but I was a coach at the gym, a trainer at the gym, who kind of like took me under his wing And he basically like wrote out my plans, and he'd be like, I'd be chatting with him every day, and he'd be like helping me out with my meal plan. And then mum, thanks mum, she would be making my lunches for me, all these crazy things like, yeah, mum, I want cheese sandwiches, but I also want like brown rice with chicken and broccoli and like all, you know, like bananas, like all these crazy lunches where everyone else is there with just a sandwich, and I've got all this crazy stuff. And my mum fully supported me through that. And then, so yeah, it was that. Mainly into the gym. That was just like bodybuilding style gym for most of it, which went well with the rugby side. And then it was 17 I was. So yeah, probably around 16 I was on the Sail Sharks Academy. And then that's when I was like, okay, rugby isn't what I want to do. And I started kickboxing. And the main reason for that, which is I remember I was always one of the biggest in school because I was a very early bloomer. I've been this height since I was like 14.
Right.
Yeah, very early bloomer. And so I was the tallest, and I was in the gym and hit puberty early, so I was big as well. I was muscular, right? So I was the biggest guy. So everyone would always look up to me like, oh, he's hard. Like Ciaran's hard. And I'd be the one people would call when they had problems, right? But I was like, I don't feel it. Like I don't feel like the idea of having a fight would scare me because I was young and I didn't feel it. So I was like, right, I need to learn how to fight. I need to get over this, right? And that's when I started kickboxing. Fell in love with it. Totally different style of training because it's super cardio based, very very cardio based. And that's how I got into the kickboxing side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There is something about in school just being like the hardest lad. And like I certainly wasn't. I was a very late bloomer. Actually,
Yeah.
I literally looked like I was built from Connects until I was about probably 18 or so.
Yeah.
I'd have been this height, but I'd have been 72 kg.
Yeah.
I was like 18, man.
Yeah.
17 really.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But so then you were fighting in Thailand.
Yeah.
Well, this chronologically brings us up. It's so funny when we're going back to it. I'd forgotten that you had joined the Navy Reserves and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, man. Packed a lot into 25 short years. Yeah,
definitely, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But how did that chronologically brings us up to you kickboxing?
Yeah.
Did that naturally turn your gaze off to Thailand because you're thinking Muay Thai? I want to go out there and train with Thais and get really good. I don't know if you were in K1 rules before or whatever, or if it was Muay Thai.
Just Muay Thai, yeah, okay. Thai boxing, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. So then, yeah, would that have brought you up to the end of school? That sixth form would have ended when you were 18, right?
Yeah.
Or 17?
No, we're 18, yeah.
Right. And you're kickboxing at this point still?
Yeah, so I was kickboxing pretty intensely through from like, 16, 17, something like that. Like very regularly, like that was my full focus. Doing a bit of calisthenics, but that was mainly just like 2 times a week. And then the rest was just like every day kickboxing, sometimes twice a day, whatever. Had a few like smokers, they call them, which is where you have like an unofficial fight against other gyms. Quite a few stuff like that. Then I went traveling. When I was traveling, we went around Thailand and Asia and things like that. And then when we ended, so I was there with a friend, Rory, at the time. We were traveling together at the time, and when we ended, we were due to go down. We ended in Thailand, down near the islands, and we were due to go down into Bali and do all that for another month. And I was like, I'm a bit sick of this now. Like, it was just non-stop party, great fun, but I was like, I'm kind of done with this. I'm in Thailand. I'm going to sign up to I'm going to go live in a gym. So that's what I did. I'd been pretty much partying for like 5 months straight.
The extreme nature is coming out at all points.
Yeah. And I was like, nope. Found like a super traditional Thai boxing gym, Suit Gym, it was called in Phuket. Because there were some that are like very commercialized and where all the pro MMA trainers train, and I'm sure it's amazing training. But I was like, no, I want something a bit more gritty, a bit more, you know. So this one was a bit more gritty. Stayed at the gym, so I was living at the gym, and was training twice a day, 6 days a week. And these were like 2-hour grueling sessions. You'd go for like a 5K run before each session as well. And this was twice a day, 6 days a week. Pretty crazy, like the transition. Did that for like, it's basically like a fight camp. So I did that for like 4 or 5 weeks, maybe like 6 weeks, something like that. And then had a fight at the end in Thailand. So that was my first fight was in Thailand. And the funny thing is, in Thailand, there's no amateur rules.
Okay, so you had no shin pads?
No shin pads.
Bare shins.
Bare elbows.
Oof.
And it was full time. It was full time length.
3 threes?
No, five threes.
Bro.
Yeah.
You want serious cardio to do 5-3s like at full full tilt.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a crazy experience. Got paid for it. I think it was like 150 quid or something. I was like, cool.
All counts.
Yeah, I'm pro. Right?
That'd go far in Thailand, you know.
Bro, it would, yeah. Well, man, like my expenses there, like I was paying like $400 a month for like all of that gym training and living at the gym. And then food was like $1 a meal.
Wow.
From the gym as well. So that would have gone far. Have like 2 of those a month and
That's
paid.
mental.
Yeah.
Wait, so this was 4 or 5 weeks in the beginning. You were doing that fight camp, but you trained there for 4 to 5 months, was it?
No, so I was traveling for 4 to 5 months.
Okay, right.
All around Thailand, Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, all that kind of stuff. And then it was at the end, I decided, okay, I want to go. I want to stop the traveling and I want to go sign up to a fight camp.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, is it optimal the way you've actually inadvertently optimal the way you've done a lot of things up until now, in that it seems to me from different people I've spoken to as well that getting really intensely into something for a short period of time with a time constraint and with things that essentially arouse emotion in your brain.
Yeah.
When there's emotion attached to something, you will learn it a lot quicker. Like I would say on certain disciplines, I don't want to be one of those people who just trashes academics all the time.
Yeah.
But on certain disciplines within marketing, I guarantee you we know more than most people who lecture on them. I guarantee you just from
doing it.
Yeah, from rubber meeting the road and from but also from needing to do it of like, here, I need to learn this or my business will die.
Yes,
like I actually,
yes.
it's a very emotional state. So my dad always says, my dad kind of would be one of those people who trashes academics, to be fair, but he's an electrician and has run his own businesses throughout his life.
Yeah.
But he always says, what I learned on my own, I remember still. And I love that phrase.
Nothing better.
But what do you think you've inadvertently been doing things optimally by getting really into something for a period of time, almost having this time constraint? Like we know that having a time constraint is even a flow trigger for hitting flow states.
Yeah.
And get intensely into something and then out and kind of into another thing.
Yes.
Do you actually think that's kind of optimal? It sounds like it's actually better for a human brain to learn things, to get really
100%.
hard into something and then get then something else.
Yeah. I 100% do. It's like, I have that now. If I have multiple projects going on, my brain is just scattered. Like you can't go deep. And like the crazy thing is, like it's so difficult to reach this point, but it like being 90% into something and then getting up to 99 or 100% into it, it's not a proportional lift. Like the graph is like this. It's not like a nice steady graph. It's
a hockey stick.
It's a hockey stick. It's a hockey stick graph. And so going like when you reach that point where it's like, okay, I'm all in on learning this and I'm all in on doing this, going a little bit further gives way outsized returns. Like because it all feeds off. It's a feedback loop. Like I remember the start or the end of last year, the start of this year, we were at a point where we just hired one. So I just hired one new media buyer, and that was Bruno. Mm-hmm. And Bruno had been there a couple months, but Bruno,
I think you'd hired 2 because we were chatting in Portugal this time last year.
Yes,
where you were setting the stage for growth to a new level.
So maybe I'd hired 2.
I think you had hired. I think you'd just brought on Dan maybe at that point.
Maybe, yeah. Yes, you're right.
It's funny. Like this is us. Like this is a new low point for me now. Like Ciaran probably knows as much about my business as I do, and I know as much about his as he does.
Yeah.
That's a new low point. Telling you, be like, no, Ciaran, you hired Dan at that point. Stop it.
No, you're right. Yeah. So we had. So we just hired. Yeah. So Bruno had been there. I don't know how long. Quite a while because he was now at like It was now becoming like a leadership point.
Team leader, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. I could see that from the start. And yeah, then we brought on one media buyer. And then we were at a point where we were like, okay, cool. The team's now full. We're at capacity again. We're going to hire. What do we do? And we were like, oh, fuck it. Should we just hire 2 at the same time? And just like try our best to fill them? Like, should we just do, let's hire one. Let's be safe. And then we're like, oh, nah, should we just do it? Like, should we just hire 2? We're like, let's do it. So we brought on 2 new media buyers at the same time, and we brought on a creative strategist at the same time as well. So we brought on 3 new team members, which was basically like pretty much almost doubling the team at that point. Because there was only 4 of us, and I was one of them. So basically, it was doubling the team outside of me. So expenses massively shot up. At the same time, we were training these new people. So we're like not taking any more clients. And a couple of clients just naturally left, right? Someone got new investors, and then they with the investors, they wanted to use their trusted agency and whatever, like that kind of thing happens. So a couple of clients left. We doubled the team, and I was saying no to clients, and I was like, okay, like this is the, you know, like the game's on. At the same time, I was building out a whole new marketing system for us. So all new marketing assets, building out a VSL for us, all that kind of stuff that I was building out throughout December, and I was like, not bringing on clients until this is done. And I was just watching like our profit, and I was like, oh, this is getting the excitement going, right? But that's what's fun. And then we were like, okay, cool. Jan came around, and at the time, I was me and my ex were actually splitting up as well. So it was super, and we were organizing moving to Dubai. So it was a crazy time. But we were like, right, that's it. We've got this team on board. The marketing assets are ready. The system's there. Now it's go time. And Bruno was like, bro, like I've got you. You get the clients, I'm onboarding them, let's fucking go. We were like, let's fucking do it. So I was just like 14 hours a day, completely in it, like immersed. Like my output at that point was like, I've never seen anything like it from myself. I was almost like watching myself from third person. Like, this is outrageous. Looking at what I was plowing through. I was on like 8 calls a day. I was calling up all the leads we have because we were running ads at the time as well. So I was calling up all the leads. I was doing all of it. We had no sales team. It was me, and I had Aaron who was helping me with the email side. Shout out to Aaron.
And we're flat out bashing each other messages on WhatsApp as well all the while that January, because I was in a similar position.
Yeah. And it was just go. And it was so exciting. But like the productivity was just outrageous from going deep. And then, it was wild. We ended up basically doubling the agency in like a month. We added 13 clients over a 30-day period, 10 of which were in 10 days. And the team that we had built was such legends that it all went perfectly. Like it was just smooth. It was smooth. And that brings on to another point, which we maybe talk about later or in another podcast, but the importance of team is crazy. But like, I was just flat out bringing those clients, and the team perfectly handled it. And to see like a machine that you've built just operating like clockwork, it's beautiful. It's like, oh man, like this is nice. Like this is
different level of satisfaction,
right? It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, you'd look back on those periods as well as it's kind of like a difference between acute stress and chronic stress, where chronic stress kills you. It's like, let's say, if you're mildly stressed all the time in something that you actually don't want to do, that's a very bad kind of stress. But acute stress, like those periods, makes you so much stronger because you have the recovery period after. It's like lifting weights. It's acute stress, which then makes you stronger. Yeah, which is always a concept that quite fascinates me. Like I look back on months like January as well. We can probably get into. I don't think we have time, but we'll get into that in another pod. Yeah, definitely. January was obviously a very tentative time for us as well, and kind of, now going into, and it was kind of a similar thing in September, and I actually look back on those as 2 of my favorite months I've actually had in my entire life. You would look back on that January and be like, man, I was possessed. Yeah, and like it's so good to have done that with someone. Like me and Bruno always talk about it. We're like, man, do you remember that time? Like because up to that point we thought our max was bringing on 4 clients in a month. We thought like that was it, and we looked at it all and we were like, what could we actually do? And we were like, look, the team's there, the team's solid. Like we built out all the processes, so the onboarding was completely systemized. We knew we could bring on a client, and we'd done it. We're bringing on a client, super smooth. Within a week, we've got everything live, or even less. Within a month, we're delivering amazing results, right? Like we'd seen it. We were like, this can go further. Like we can do this. Like let's do it. And we look back and it's like, man, and those kind of things, when you push the limits and then it works perfectly, like it changes your complete mindset, because it changed. You realize what's actually possible, and it changes exactly that. Yeah, it's very true. Well, let's keep pushing it. I think like
Let's
like
do it.
we've kind of got a nice plan, I think, for 2024 of just pushing excellence.
Yep,
And
we do.
We've tested it. You've tested your systems a lot this year, as have we.
Yep.
Very excited, but yeah, we've made it to the end of the hour. Thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah.
The number, I think, episode 4 of Erudite in its infancy.
In its infancy.
It won't be the first one, or it won't be the last one that we do here. So
I'm sure, yeah.
So yeah, thanks
I'm
very much, bro.
No, appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.